Welcome to the round 18 episode of the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I really don't like Carlton all that much, Spook.
Spook,
Yes.
I feel fucking sick. I seriously cannot tolerate this any longer. I feel nauseous and pained. How much longer are they going to allow James Brayshaw to commentate?
I knew it was coming. He's a fucking idiot. You can't say that out loud, though, can you?
I don't know. You said it, not me.
He's just painful. Seriously painful. We're here to talk about Collingwood, though, aren't we?
Oh, we were talking about pain, I think, in general. But just, it's really something.
If this means we don't have to talk about or relive moments of this game, I'm happy to talk about Brayshaw for 20 minutes.
No, just the Brayshaw comes across as someone who's written a list of things he has to get in there. Just little catchphrases and shit and little qualifiers. And he weaves them in any moment he can, unlike Collingwood. Collingwood.
Yes.
About a quarter and a half of some pretty good football.
A quarter and a half.
A quarter and a half, yep, with some pretty good football.
I can crack this gag every week.
I know you can.
And will.
Honestly, I mean, the Grundy was blitzing, moving the ball quickly. Henry showing, being a live eye shows how important it is to get the ball quickly into the forwards to give them opportunity. There was a moment there. I think it's right when you talk to me, I'm not saying anything, but it was just a moment there where I was thinking, this could be a case of how much. And I thought, but we generally don't smash teams under this coaching, whatever you want to call it, brain trust.
Extension.
Yeah. And about halfway through that second quarter, it just turned. And Grundy, mate, love you, but maybe hand back 3 years of that contract because of today's performance being out-rucked by Jack Silvani. It's a little bit embarrassing.
Just a little bit. Although, to be fair, I know you like bagging Grundy. He's the most despised player you've ever met. Or you've not even met him. But he was clearly injured. He was proppy as all fuck. And I'm not making excuses for him or anything. But he was clearly on one leg for the second half. He could barely run. And I'm not making justifications and all that sort of thing, but there was clearly something wrong. He was on the bench, I think, for a fair bit of the second quarter, wasn't he? Being treated.
I don't know. It's hard to follow on television.
Well, it's not that hard to follow because there's nothing else to look at.
I don't want to, highlight the umpiring too much, but fuck, that was terrible.
Wasn't it?
That couldn't have been worse if Disney had arranged it. It seriously was one of the most hideously double standard, inconsistent, inexplicable displays of umpiring I've ever seen. Sort of the days I wish Malthouse was coach because he would have given one of those backhanded slaps at the umpiring. Not going to blame it for the loss, although there was a few decisions that I think pivotal.
It shifted momentum a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, for example, that Henry 50, that was just ridiculous.
That was borderline criminal. I mean, seriously. And no warning. They normally pull them back. Straight into it, mate.
And as you pointed out, Poulter took a mark a little bit earlier and had the ball knocked out of his hands, and that was fine. Eddie Betts dropped the mark.
He fucking knew he dropped the mark. He played on. It doesn't really matter anyway whether he dropped the mark or not. The fact that he played on should have been enough.
Well, actually, I recall that. Grundy did the same thing a couple of weeks ago where he went for a sliding mark and he wasn't sure it was going to be paid and he handled it out quickly to side bottom and Collingwood turned it over. And side bottom complained that, well, hang on, you paid the mark after you handled it and he didn't know what he was responding to thinking it was just to be called play on. Call it back and they didn't do it, but this time they did. But I think, as bad as the umpiring was, and seriously, that's one of the worst displays of umpiring I've seen in quite a while. Biggest problem is just, winning the ball in clearances. We were just dominated in clearances. It was seriously horrific to watch, and particularly in that second half, Carlton just kept getting the ball and spreading from clearances and getting some run. And to be fair to Carlton, they were pretty fucking shitful in the first half also. I think their ineptitude allowed us to get a bit of a break. But having said that, I thought we could have crushed them, but we didn't. But
No, and just on I mentioned it to you in message, but there was I think the only clearance we won in that third quarter resulted in us carrying the ball halfway into fucking Carlton's forward line.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Seriously.
So
It's embarrassing.
Clearances were 22 to us, 36 to Carlton.
22?
Yeah.
What happened to it? Was there a typo?
I don't know. And center clearances were 8 to 13. So when you break it down, center clearances 8 to 13 and stoppage clearances are 14 to 23. We have a serious problem with the midfield, which, I'm hoping people don't think Nick Dacos is going to fix overnight.
He is, though, isn't he?
I don't know.
That's why we sold the farm to get him.
Oh, well, we sell farms to get anyone. I don't know what's happened with Braden Sy. He's fallen out of calculations, or maybe Robert Harvey's thinking I'm going to make him really earn his spot. But that midfield
by keeping him in the VFL for another 5 weeks.
Yeah, that midfield lacks real bite. And again, I don't like the shit can their own players, but his steel side bottom has fallen so far from grace. Outside of a few highlights in the last couple of years, he's been terrible since that 2018 grand final.
Yep.
They cannot. If I was coach, hint to the Collingwood administration, whichever one gets in, you can't afford to play him in the middle. You can't afford to play him as a midfielder. He just will not put his body on the line. And the amount of times he gets the ball and he looks like he's going to do something daring, instead he just stops and turns and looks around and lets everyone flood forward and congest and all that. And it's like, okay, I'll just boot it anyway. I mean, it's one of my greatest grievances in football when a player will actually take the ball, stop, prop, look around, all that, and then it's just, I'll just boot it anyway. Just fucking boot it anyway to begin with. And you know what I really want to see coaches do, which I'm actually surprised they don't do, is to teach players to kick when there's no one forward of the ball. Teach players to kick as they do in American football. Don't make it about distance, make it about height, and give everyone behind the ball plenty of time to run and fucking contest it when it comes down, rather than just kick it to a turnover.
With the hang time in a punt or something, isn't
it?
Yeah. Give everyone time to run up.
I don't know why no one's done it, which is why I should be a coach. Again, hint. The other thing too is the fucking errors. The amount of times we won the ball, streamed out of defense, and then someone said, okay, I'll square it up in the middle, and they just turned it over with some dinky little kick that didn't make its target. And you know who I blame for that?
Everyone?
Oh, besides them, Nathan Buckley, because those kicks, did you notice, like with all those kicks that were getting turned over, particularly in the middle, they weren't kicks that were going over heads or anything like that. There were those dinky little kicks that we've practiced for 10 years, those little finessey 10, 15 meter kicks. And it was like players just instinctively could no longer kick for distance. It was like, oh, the guy's 20 meters away. I've only trained to kick at 12 meters for the last 10 years. And they had no capacity to make the distance or to actually judge how much power needed to go into the ball to make the distance. And they were just constantly intercepted. It was like, oh, gee. And like I said, Lucky Carlton were pretty bad for about the first half of a bit because they sort of kept us in the game. But, geez, skills, clearances, and our favourite, which, you pointed out during the game when we're having a pizza at the house party that I hosted, is forward 50 entries.
Oh, diabolical.
Efficiency inside 50. I'm looking at the stat. Carlton, 55.6%. Us, 37.8%.
Hard to believe.
Oh, it is really fucking hard to believe.
The amount of defenders that just take uncontested marks in our forward line, it's just fucking, it does your head in every entry. You're waiting for the inevitable turnover. It's shocking. And the times when they should be lowering their eyes and delivering the ball with pinpoint precision, it sails over the top of someone's head. It's so frustrating watching the ball go in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, kick for height or just look for a fucking target. I mean, there was a period in that game
where aim at the opposition defender. That could probably be the only thing that could change it.
Well, it actually reminded me of the Anzac Day game where Buckley said on halftime, he asked the players whether the jump clash was an issue, because it felt like that. It felt like at times these people weren't seeing the fucking right jumper because the way we were picking out was just insane. A couple of good news stories. Oliver Henry looked really good for a half.
No, I'm starting to see what they think they saw. So, but it's only one game, but it's a start.
But I think it sort of shows, again, when we get the ball in and give him opportunity, and if we can actually find some synergy with a forward six, maybe we'll get a few players kicking goals like we did in 2018. Trey Rusco down back.
Yeah, when he's not giving CPR to Eddie Betts.
That was interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, we might actually come back to that because I've got two opinions on this. But there, he again looks very composed. He finished with about 25, 28 possessions or something?
23, 12 kicks
23?
and 11 handballs, yeah.
I knew it was 20 in one of those squiggly little numbers. But no, very composed. Very cool.
Well, it makes you wonder why.
I'm liking it.
It makes you wonder why the fuck they played him in up forwards 2 and a bit years.
You wouldn't think there's any sort of past history of playing players out of position, would you?
No.
I wouldn't.
Again, in fairness, Harvey's corrected some of these. Jordan De Goey got 31 possessions.
Can we just go back to Rusco and that Betts incident?
Yeah.
What would you have done? Do you think what he did was nice and it's a really good ooh-ah moment, or should he have just driven his face further into the ground?
Oh, look, I actually don't mind what he did. I don't know what Betts said, because I imagine him going down, he's let out the cry of pain or something that has alarmed Rusco.
I'm freaking it. Go away. I'm freaking it.
No, actually, I recall...
I shouldn't do that sort of voice.
I've seen this, it was years ago. So it was back in 02 or 03 where I think Tarkin Lockyer got knocked out. We played Essendon, and I think it was... I can't remember if it was Mercedes or Mercury for Essendon, because I always get their names or get them confused because of their name similarity. But I recall one of them went on, checked on Lockyer, and then signaled to the Collingwood bench, look, this guy's in trouble. You better get someone out here. So I actually don't mind that sort of sportsmanship. I know the sort of thing is you show no mercy, and I'd be the one to call that a lot of the time. But the collision was done, and like I said, I don't know how Betts responded. That might have alarmed Rusco to go, okay, you better check on this guy. So I actually don't mind that. I know you hate it, but because you have no heart, you're heartless.
No, but there's part of me that wants to see a ruthless side out there, and I'd be nipping that type of behaviour in the bud. It's nice and it's good, but I don't know. I'm torn on that one. Look, I didn't mind it, but at the same time, I didn't like it.
Yeah,
but I understand why he did it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Again, I'm assuming that Rusco responded to Betts saying something as you went down.
Get off me. Get off. Get off.
But just, I'm assuming Rusco probably responded to something that was unusual for a collision where he's turned around and going, okay, there's an issue here. I better check, rather than just go, screw it.
That's fair.
In terms of De Goey, 31 possessions, but didn't really have that influential a game.
I think he had 27 of them in the stands. He was that far away.
He seemed often to just get it and just go, I'm just going to boot the shit out of it.
He doesn't put his head over the ball that often, does he?
No. Well, I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say a frustrating one, but he's an interesting one in that
he's frustrating.
He has a lot of explosive talent, but he's just become a very flat accumulator in a lot of ways. Nathan Murphy, I thought he really struggled to get anywhere near the ball this game. That was a very concerning
shocker.
I see there's a lot of criticism of guys like Maine and that. We criticize these guys often enough, but I'm assuming that they're going with these guys because there's not a lot left in the VFL in terms of replacements. I know people say, well, let's go for Keane or whatever, but you're playing a pretty inexperienced defence as it is. So I'm assuming they want to keep some experienced heads back down there. But ultimately, it was just a really disappointing performance after half time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But, in some respects, it's to be expected. I mean, we weren't going to be trajectorying upwards at all that much this year. We're going to have these flat moments where they ran out of run really early, which is concerning. Maybe the last couple of weeks have been catching up. Who knows? Maybe it's playing in front of an empty crowd. They hate it. I don't know, but we looked really flat and just stopped running. And that was halfway through the second quarter, as you said. it's a very early point in the game to sort of not throw the hands up, but just to run out of puff.
I think the really important thing is something I mentioned last week or whenever it was. You have a very uneven talent disparity in the side now. And the reality is, as we saw in the first quarter and a half, the first 40, 50 minutes, when Grundy was dominating and all that, it looked great because everyone then clicked into place. It was sort of a dominoes thing. Once you started taking out dominoes at the top there, the other players just couldn't get into it. Adams generally plays really well against Carlton. He tried today, but he really didn't have much influence. He turned it over a fair bit too. Pendlebury, outside of that one good mark he took on the half back, I don't think he was really that great. Side bottom was just horrible. Callum Brown was very, very average. And that's really sort of the depth of our midfield at this point. So it doesn't take a lot to stop it. So I'm not, once you stop a couple of players, it's like,
no, well, it's I mean, it was virtually across the board from that point onwards too. Blokes like Hoskin Elliott, who started well, just completely slipped the old cloak back on, and he vanished. I think there was a puff of smoke there at one point, and everyone was looking around, saying, "What happened?"
Well, the thing too, with the first time we beat Carlton, from memory, Adams had like 14 clearances or something like that. He had this insane amount. He had a lot more than the next Carlton player. And it just sort of shows that when you get a few of these players playing well, there's a catalytic effect where other players start coming into it, and then, it clicks and everyone starts running like we saw last week in that last quarter against Richmond. But you take out a few of those cogs and it's just bang. And we really need to find midfielders. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what the club is, where they judge him, if he's just sort of already been given his marching papers, or they're already thinking like he's had 4 years of chances, so this is not working, or whatever the case is. But I think we have a lot of really good peripheral players, or potential lot of good peripheral players. We just don't have those key components at the moment. And the ones we really need, you really needed. I always sort of go back to that transition from the 202-203 grand final sides, which had Buckley, Burns, O'Brien, Licuria as like the core midfielders. And then you went to 206, and that swapped to Swan, Pendlebury, Daisy, and then, other guys like Willingham that came in. And ultimately, we had probably a better midfield, or the succeeding midfielders better, the ones that they'd replaced. I just I don't see it here at the moment. It's like De Goey's the one you really want to come up and become elite. He just hasn't done it. And I think if he could step up, then a few other players will fall into place. But, Adams is another one who's a little bit inconsistent. And then after that, it really falls away. Pendlebury and Sidebottom are struggling at times. So,
Yep. Well, it looks like, though, it's all down to Whispery Nick next year. He's the piece of the puzzle. It's going to fix it all.
Well, they really should identify like a couple of just big bodies who they can rely on to get 20, 25 possessions to throw in there, who can just maybe play transitional roles for a while they get games in the Nick Dacos and all that, but also while they get back into the draft and can find some other talent to come up with them. Because I don't know. Yeah, I mean, part of the list looks really good, and the other part just looks, this is really speculative. So,
yep.
Good thing about post-game, Robert Harvey effectively said too many passengers in that last quarter when it needed to be won. But, again, who's going to step up? We're probably a little bit lower than I, anticipated it would be, but we're pretty much an average team now. So there shouldn't be too many surprises when we have disappointing games. And when you have a good game like last week, people shouldn't be expecting that to be the standard for the future, because it's just not going to happen.
Oh, why not?
Or in terms of consistency, it's not going to happen.
No, I think it. Look, I've cooled down a fair bit now, but I was pretty filthy after the game.
You never know.
But I think that's the Carlton effect. And then I'm thinking about it later, thinking, well, maybe it's a good thing that I actually feel pissed off about losing to Carlton again, because it's been tame there for quite a few years. Either they've been deplorably bad, and well, actually they just been deplorably bad. But if they're sort of making up ground while we're coming down, it's it hurts to lose to them. And I'd sort of forgotten a little bit about what that felt like. So is what it is.
I do wonder how that game might transpire if there was a crowd, if you know how much of a factor that plays into it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to find that out for the next
28 years.
Three seasons.
Yeah. On the political front, how much has changed in the last 2 or 1 week?
Yeah, I believe there was an announcement made. Bit of movement on the front.
Yeah.
A shot fired in anger.
I like the anger.
A retaliatory strike.
Oh, it's the other.
Nuked them from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
The other side has to strike for it to be a retaliatory strike. Let me ask you something.
Quarters retaliated.
Oh, well, good. Show some personality. Let me ask you something, because there's a lot of discussion about this. Collingwood's political instability, does that impact their ability to find a coach?
You would think logically it would be having some form of impact. Now, when you've got, was it Galbally, I think, came out? Did we talk about Galbally last week? Was this week or last week?
I don't know at all.
All this stuff's blurring into one. But when he's making stupid statements about the fact that the club should put the search for a coach on hold until the EGM is sorted out, if it happens in December. I mean, seriously, how many coaches just sit on their ass and just go, okay, well, I'll pick it up in the new year. That'll be all right with you. Maybe I'll take a bit of holidays. It's just madness. The coach thing should be barreling ahead no matter what. And I'd hate to think that silliness like that would put off us landing a replacement coach.
Well, as someone else said to me, the board should be allowed to administrate until they're ousted, or if they're not ousted, but until they're booted, they should be allowed to do their job. So Galbally is saying, hey, you can't do anything. And the thing there too is if the incumbent board got someone like Alistair Clarkson, I think Clarkson would just go, well, fuck, I'm going to show up, I'm a big name, and that'll just shut everyone up, and then bang, away we go. But if the board was courting someone like an Adam Uzo or Adam Kingsley or whoever, I saw an argument that those guys are such low profile, they'd just be jumping for any opportunity. They wouldn't give a shit what's going on at the board level. And I was thinking, but surely if I was like a low profile coach and Collingwood said, come, we're going to sign you for 5 years, I would be very worried that the challenging board, the Jeff Brown board, would just say, no, we probably wouldn't appoint you if we were in power. So we demand that the administration does not sign this guy until the EGM is cleared. And if I was a low profile coach, I'd be going, oh, okay, well, I just don't fucking have a job then. So why would I go there?
The conundrum also would be that if say they landed Clarkson, I think that's pretty much problem solved. You can't shoot any of that down. Everyone would surely have to be happy versus incumbents versus challenging ticket, whatever. You'd take whatever changed after the December AGM and you'd be happy with that placement. But if they ended up with a gamble coach, that Brown ticket can't say what a pitiful decision that is. Yeah, what the fuck were you thinking? Because if they win the EGM and they get into they're running the show, they've got to live with that statement with that coach. They can't sack him and say, well, you're out of here, mate. We didn't think you were good enough to get the job. So this is a catch-22. I suppose it's a catch-22, really, isn't it? No matter which way you go, but you've got to trust in the system that sounds like the Curia has in place, and hope that it just unearths the best coaching prospect, or we land the name that has to work for us.
That's what I'd hope. But I mean, I'd just be thinking, if I was one of these coaches, I'd be worried about coming on board, because Brown would do exactly something like that. I mean, Galball's already fired that shot. He's going, well, no, you can't appoint a coach. So if I'm Kingsley, I'd be saying, well, I don't want to take your contract, because the legal representation for the other ticket are saying, no, you can't appoint me. So you could appoint me, they could fucking have an EGM next week, and I could find I'm now not going to be appointed, or whatever the case. So I just think it's sort of ridiculous. But having said that, there's something that Brown said last week, which really I thought, for me, if I was choosing sides, which, I've said for ages, I love Peter Murphy as president, but if I was choosing sides, I'd be saying, fuck, I want to steer so far clear of Brown now. And what he said in relation to the Galbally stuff and Quarter responding and all that, Brown is quoted as saying in the Herald Sun, I've always said that I will offer myself for election if an opportunity arises. And I'm looking at that thinking, if. So you're only going to present yourself if the opportunity arises. This is how much you want to be president of Collingwood, if the opportunity arises. the guy I want to, I'd rather fucking have Corder as president at the moment because they're all sort of criticizing him for pulling underhand tricks. Great. He's doing everything I want to fucking see in terms of holding on to that position. I would want Brown to be coming out saying, if this EGM doesn't happen fucking in the next week, I will fucking make it happen because I'm going to be president of that fucking football club and I'm going to bring it back to glory because that's what I want to do. I don't give a fuck what the rest of you say. But you're not getting that sort of passion from him. He's saying, if an opportunity arises. Thanks. That's the guy I want in charge. The guy who says, if. Just find that really absurd. I want people at the club who want to kill to be at the club, not guys who are saying, "No, well, if."
And I've got nothing on next week. I'll just check my calendar. I'll either be president or I might have a meeting I need to attend.
But this goes. I'm seeing this as a criticism on message boards now too, where they're saying, "Well, he's not presenting a vision. So how can I feel confident in him?"
But you can't present your vision now because the other side will steal it.
Because that's the way
it's unheard of in politics, the way it works.
Oh, well, that's the way politics works. I mean, no one presents any campaign until the week of the election.
Well, what's your policies? I can't tell you until you vote me in, but I can guarantee they're really, really good ones.
And I've heard that stuff like, oh, well, there's other candidates out there, but they're not going to present themselves until an EGM's called. And it's like, again, I don't know anything about politics, so people can call me out, but hey, if I presented myself as a candidate right now, I said, I want to be on the Collingwood board, and other people were popping up and doing this, that would show the punters, look, there are people who want to get on this board and they're not getting the opportunity because this EGM is not being called. And that would actually force their hand, in my opinion. But right now, it's like, I'm looking at more and more and thinking, why are we calling an EGM when the one guy who wants to be on a ticket is saying, if the opportunity arises, I'll go for it. And no one else has said anything. Why the fuck are we calling an EGM? Just to vote the same people back in? Okay. Good use of money and resources.
It's a distinct possibility as well, I guess.
And but I'm just saying it.
I think,
surely you should be coming out and fucking going, I want to be on that board. Surely people should be passionate. Collingwood people should be going, I want to be the fucking president. I want to be on that board. I can make change. They should be putting the pressure on the club to go, call this EGM, because we have 28 candidates who are putting their hands up right now wanting to be on this board. Instead, we have this fucking vacuum of silence. And it's like, well, why the fuck should we call an EGM? Because that's going to invite all the rats out to fucking go, hey, now I want to be on this board because the opportunities are arisen. Yeah, okay. That's, for me, just not, I want to see passion. I'm not seeing it right now. If it's happening behind closed doors, what the fuck does that mean to me?
Yeah, I don't know. And then that's the thing. Yeah, you want to hear something. The silence. I mean, I have mixed feelings about Corder's message that came out. I don't think it was particularly great. I don't think it was terrible, but it's still, I don't know. It's just something that just doesn't gel with me around it. But it's a fuck lot more than we're getting from the other side. Although apparently there's no sides. There's no sides. There's just a whole bunch of individuals on the board meeting nights to put their hand up and we vote and build the world's best board based on a whole bunch of who got the highest numbers. That should work brilliantly.
I mean, that is a concern too. I mean, you want to structure a board so it's answering or going to address different facets of club administration. What happens if you go run an EGM and you end up with 7 internet guys? It's like, what are they going to just fucking sit on the board playing World of Warcraft or something? I don't know. Don't you want actually a fair distribution of different skills and expertise and that sort of thing?
Logically, you would think so.
Well, what logic is there? I mean, as I said, I've always wanted Murphy as president. I've said that for ages. I've said that, in the stuff I've written. Not particularly a big fan of Corder, but I like I actually like the nasty Corder if it comes out. Not that he's not that he seems that nasty, but when the club's issuing these rebukes to Jeff Brown, I actually like that. It's like, oh, fucking finally, show me a bit of personality. Not that wishy-washy shit that at the start about, apologizing for the decisions of the previous governance and we're one game out of the 8 and all that sort of shit. It's just like, yeah, fucking show me some character. Show me some teeth. Show me some nastiness.
I don't know. I still think no matter what, though, he's a dead man walking.
I think
the support as far as the voting supporter base is going to go. So it's, yeah, I don't know what they should do. I mean, would you make a move and fall on your sword if you were Quarter and try to keep those incumbents in with somebody else leading the show that would be a bit more palatable to the supporter base? Or do you hedge your bets and just go along with the spill and see what happens?
The biggest
one
problem,
big great fucking unknown.
The biggest problem there, though, I mean, is, him falling on his sword. They can't appoint me because I'm not part of the board right now. So, I can't take over from Quarter. But yeah, I mean, I think that would definitely be a strategy. I mean, you saw that in federal politics for how long? If I can...
it's clear they don't have the support. They change leadership.
It wasn't. It's not even when they don't have the support. It's like when there's the speculation they might not have the support. It was like, fucking Kevin Rudd was chopped for Gillard. Gillard was chopped for Rudd. Abbott was chopped for Turnbull, was it? And
I think what was the Guinness Book of Records for the most amount of prime ministers in a space of years? I think we broke it 3 times.
Oh, it was insane. I mean, I remember a meme coming out saying, Collingwood, Australia's changed prime ministers again. Well, you know what that means? Time to change your smoke alarm battery, because it just happened with that sort of regularity. But
no, well, you do that yearly, so that meme's a bit incorrect.
What's your vision for Collingwood? Your specific vision?
Apart from nuking it from orbit.
Yeah, and besides, the flags, I mean, you can only have so much control over attempting to win a flag. So what do you want to see from the club as we move forward into potentially EGM land, if, an EGM was to come up?
So you answer this question as in it was the start of the season and here it is now. For me, there were 3 things, and I think we've been bleeding about it on the rant. Is that I clearly wanted Eddie and Bucks to go, and I was willing to spill everything and just rebuild the place from scratch. Now, 2 of those things have happened. At this point now, I'm not saying that I want the current structure of the board to stay in there. I think there's elements there that probably need to go. I think there's elements in there that probably need to stay, and I guess the pressing thing right now is stability in that space, because the thing that it's really begin to ship me is you read on supporter boards and all that sort of thing. Apparently, I've never realised how much of an influence that the board has on game day. It's just illogical the way that people are approaching it, but they're still angry, and they're pinning their rage on whatever it is that looks acceptable to be angry at, and that's hanging the board. And I'm just not sure that that's 100% the correct way to go. There is some good skill on there. There probably needs to be some more additional good skill added in to build a strong board. I think that still has to be the driving thing. But the board really, although apparently the internet's proven me wrong, the board does impact on game day, team selection, underwear selection, what they eat for lunch, all that sort of stuff. But really, if the board's doing its job right, we don't know they exist, and they manage the club. The rest of the people that are put in the positions to help develop and grow this team moving forward is probably the secondary area that partially has been addressed in terms of the first steps to fix it, and that's the area that needs to be focused on now. And I don't think that this background noise of the board is like what we talked about before, is helping that push to find the right coach. We do look a bit of a rabble at the moment, and that's concerning to me, that if we're looking a rabble and we appear like a rabble, then who's going to want to come to us? And that's players, administrators, whoever, because we just look so chaotic at the moment. My vision would be to by, what are we now? It's the 18th of July. By 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, if this could all be fucking put to bed and we can all move forward as a singular unit, that would be my vision moving forward. To build, this is a really good opportunity for Collingwood. It's crumbled low this year. To pick up the pieces and rebuild from now, you can make this thing whatever it is that you want it to be. Yeah, some exciting innovations to be implemented. Some, right the wrongs, acknowledge the past, be humble, be a fucking powerhouse again is what needs to happen. And how we build it, it's up to them to decide, or it's up to us to potentially decide. It's up to you, because you're going to be president and coach. There's never been a president coach. There's been plenty of captain coaches, but you'll be president coach.
Might have happened in the 1900s. I don't know.
So it's look, it can be an exciting time, but it just feels like we've got this fucking chain around our necks, just dragging us from sprinting forward, and I find it frustrating, and I just want to get past this part and move into the next phase.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I want to see some passion for the club. I want to see a vision for the club about where they want to go, where they want to be. I understand that, sometimes shit's going to happen, so you're not going to make it for whatever reason. Players have injuries and all that sort of crap. But I want to see a club that is got like a blueprint for the fucking future and are passionate about making it happen. And, the Jeff Brown thing we've criticised for a while, that he's not saying anything, which to me, that's just, is it a strategy? Maybe I'm fucking totally wrong, and he's going to come out tomorrow with the greatest strategy ever, and that will win me over. But right now, there's just a vacuum. And I agree with what you're saying. I mean, the criticism just going around now is just, it's bordering on fucking paranoia. It's like some of the COVID conspiracy theories, the way they twist everything into a narrative about how governments are trying to manipulate us into Big Brother, fucking infrastructure and all that sort of stuff. It's just insane. I mean, I wish people would just sort of step back from it and just go, well, let's just look at this fucking fairly. Last year, we lost 3 senior players, okay, and we've criticised the salary cap management for, a while ourselves. But why would anyone expect we're going to be such a great side this year? And then coming off, a coach whose game plan was just deteriorating over the last 3 years. Why do people think when they see shit performances like today that it's any surprise? And that's the fucking thing, Although I was a bit alarmed at, reading about Corder, because, he's guilty of everything right now. I was a little bit worried about him talking about using Collingwood funds to build a rocket to go into space after Branson and Jeff Bezos. It's a little bit, just keep a bit of a low profile there, Mark.
The sky's the limit, he reckons.
Yeah, he just goes, fuck the sky. I'm just going to burst through that. Paul Laguerre.
You do know that any sort of Collingwood rocket would look magnificent right up until the point where it reached space, where it just exploded spectacularly.
Yeah, I think we should be joking about that stuff. Paul Laguerre said, we're not a successful club, won 2 flags in 60 odd years. What do you feel about that statement?
I don't need to make any comment on this. If you want to hear my opinion on this, go back and listen to the last 3 years of the Rant. He's bang on that. It's correct. It is a chronically underperforming club, and the fact, and this is the bit that's always given me the most sort of angst, is that fucking false bravado and bluster on the back of not being successful. And you're, again, I'll harp on this, but the measurement is grand finals. That's what you're in the competition to achieve.
Not grand finals, flags.
Well, sorry, yeah. Well,
we hammer grand finals. Yeah, don't imply that at Collingwood.
I would have thought you'd implied wins. And in that respect, if just being runner-up is enough, then we're the most successful club in Australia. If you want to be measured by winning, then fuck, everyone else is miles ahead of us. In the modern era, and not even the modern era for us, it's 7 decades. Say it out loud. Think about it before you go to sleep at night. It's embarrassing for something that is such a big entity in Australia and the most followed and passionately supported club, to do that on the back of limited success. Can you imagine how fucking big they'd be if they won a few of them?
The reality is, having this conversation with someone else is...
you're talking around?
Yeah. In the first 44 years of our existence, we won 11 flags. That's 1 flag every 4 years. In the next, 80 years of our existence, we've won 4 more flags. So we won 1 every 4 years for the first 44 years of our existence. And then we've won 1 every 21 years for the next 84 years of our existence. If you break it down into like mathematics, it's like, well, look, something has fucking obviously gone terribly just awry there. And if you just want to break it down to the AFL compartment of Australian rules football, okay, Hawthorn sits on 5 flags, Geelong, West Coast, Brisbane sit on 3 flags. We sit on 2. So, okay, we're still behind. So whatever metric you want to use, if you just want to go look on from the new millennium, from 2000 onwards, well, again, Hawthorn has 4, Geelong has 3, so we're behind. Okay, so stop fucking making out like we are this powerhouse, because whatever way you want to measure it, we are still behind. And instead of talking about how fucking great we are, how about we just sort of go, let's get fucking hungry and get in front. So when these other wankers come around going, we're the greatest club, it's like, oh, no, fuck, Collingwood's won 5 flags in the last 20 years, or whatever the fucking case might be. Don't talk about being a great club, become a great club. That's just a reality. And all this other bluster is just hot air.
You're deluding yourself with stories to make yourself feel more important than you actually are.
Yeah.
Be big and important where it matters.
No comment. We're playing Port Adelaide, I think, next week.
Playing or just turning up?
Oh, don't know. I don't
know.
know.
Do we know where we're playing? Were we in the Tiwi Islands? Surely we're evacuating Australia this week, aren't we?
It's still fixtured as 7:15 Adelaide Oval Friday night. Don't know.
Okay.
That's still just the AFL side, and they generally update their things about 2 weeks after it happens. So it could change. There were Collingwood players at an exposure site. So I don't know how that's going to impact selection. Josh Thomas subbed off with the concussion, so he won't play next. No. He's got to sit out the mandatory 12 days. I don't know. Do we have other injuries in that game? There was someone who got injured.
I think I certainly think Grundy will be a watch this space on that front. It might pay to bring Lynchy back in, maybe, if Grundy's hurt. Who else was hurt? I don't know. Was there 2 injuries at the end of the game? By the end of the game?
There's always 2 injuries by the end of the game. There was. I can't remember who it was, but let's just assume it was someone.
Yeah, no idea. Yeah, but I mean, definitely there'd have to be a few changes this week, surely. I mean, and this is the important thing, I guess, for Banger to come out. He's I didn't see the post press conference. I was probably too busy vomiting in the toilet.
Back on James Brayshaw. Okay, all
right. Yeah, I was regurgitating some Brayshawisms. If he's come out and said there's a lot of passengers there, then surely you'd be making some changes this week on a wholesale scale, wouldn't you? To send a bit of message. I mean, really, at this stage,
problem just comes back to who do you pick though? There's there's players you can bring in like Ginnivan and all that who can obviously play, and the VFL didn't play this week because of the COVID. But I'm sort of saying you can't make wholesale changes because there's just not that personnel down there to bring in.
Fuck it, make wholesale changes. You send a message.
The one,
I mean, you're coming into the end of the career in a rebuilding side. There's going to be a few blokes told that they're not required next year that should be playing, or some players that'll be playing for their career. There'll be some that'll be vacated. You still got to get games into the youth. Now, winning is really not that important. I mean, the only reason I want to win at the moment is to go higher up the ladder, to take the sting out of that pick that we're giving away. That's my only sole motivation. If we weren't giving that pick away and we were keeping it, and Whispery Nick wasn't part of the equation, then I'd be advocating for the biggest fucking tank of all time to get the best pick we could possibly get.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but unfortunately, that's not the...
No, well, that's not the be. So, but at the moment, I still don't particularly... I'm not fussed about losing games. We're going to drift. I mean, we would have jumped to 13 if we beat Carlton today. I don't think we're any better than that. We'd probably be still banging down a couple of pegs. We're going to be finishing 14th, 15th, 16th, irrespective.
Yeah, my concern is you drop a few of these players. I think they're just really in there to provide a framework of senior bodies, which gives the younger players a framework with which to operate and to have a more consistent or more reliable performance. Whereas if you just sort of go out there with 22 kids and they get smashed, who the fuck's going to develop in that?
Well, we got, as you said, apart from Cox, we have probably, I don't think we've got any senior bodies running around.
No, but I'm talking about like guys like Josh Thomas and Chris Mayne, why they've persevered with them. I think it's just...
There's just no other option.
But I think, rather than going for the Ginnivans and all that sort of stuff, they haven't gone full out youth because then the potential is just there where it all collapses. And then you get what's happened at somewhere like Gold Coast, where they just be smashed week after week after week and just become infused within their culture. So it's really hard to turn them around.
Yeah, no, but they're looking good at the moment, Gold Coast.
No, they lost the other day.
But they still they're pushing sides. It's more than they've ever done in their past. They got some good young talent coming through too. So
but I think it's just a consistency. Up until about 3 weeks ago, people were going, "Well, let's fucking do the Tasmania because they're this much of an embarrassment." So I just think that's why we've persevered with some of the younger players some of the older players, and why we haven't just gone all out youth. But I would like to see some players like Ginnivan and that given the game. He probably should have been played when he had his good little run.
Yeah.
I will say that in relation to this week with the VFL sides, the VFL competition just being kiboshed, I would have dropped Thomas for Ginnivan just because it was like, okay, Ginnivan's running hot. He's not going to play this week. Let's fucking stick him in the seniors. Thomas has been around for 10 years. He can miss a week and then we can just plug and play him, and he's going to give us the same output of 10, 12 positions anyway. So we're not really losing anything by dropping him for a week. Whereas Ginnivan's developing, it could really be boosted by rewarding him for good performances right now, giving him a taste, and away we go. But you can't really do that to any too great an extent, because again, it's just the framework for that side just going to collapse.
Would you bring Sire in? I would.
Yeah. I don't know what they've told Sire, but I said it weeks ago.
I don't care what they've told him. I'd bring him in.
Yeah,
you're getting paid to fucking play.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they've already decided we're cutting him, so what's the fucking point of playing him?
There's a point.
But I mean, then again, there's also the fact of, well, hang on, you're going to be appointing a coach, so a new coach might come in and go, well, I'd fucking keep him on for a year, and I will try and whip him into shape and try and bring him up. So,
don't we wait and see what Francis Galbally has to say on that? Isn't he calling the shots? I don't think he wants any players cut until he has final say.
You're probably not that far removed from the truth. But I would be telling him, hey, mate, there's 5 weeks left of the season. Your contract expires at the end of this year. We're not really looking at re-signing you right now. Give us a reason to fucking re-sign you in the next 5 weeks.
Well, it's also there's a little bit of give and take here too. That if you, irrespective of whether you don't think you're going to retain a player, there's a little bit of a two-way loyalty street here. That if you provided service to them, they should at least, especially when you're decimated like we are, to have an opportunity to run around and showcase your wares to someone else who may be potentially interested. Now we will need still a number of second and third round picks to build up the points tally, no matter what. So when we have 8 players and Whispery Nick running around next year, we still need to try and bring some picks in. So you might as well try and boost. And you're not going to do it realistically with 5 games left to go, but at least try and generate a little bit of interest in some of the things that may be of value to someone else.
If you could trade anyone, who would you trade? If there's one guy, so let's get rid of him because we'll get value for him, and that will...
Grundy.
So is that the guy you would trade?
Look, on present form, you'd have to seriously consider it, but no one's going to pick him up with the salary that comes with. And I don't think even we couldn't be that stupid to start paying someone else's salary again somewhere else.
I think it could be that stupid, but
De Goey's probably the only other one. I mean, De Goey would work beautifully in a functional side.
Yeah, he would. But,
so he'd have
De Goey. For me, is part of that midfield future, whereas Grundy's the one I would look at just simply because I just don't think Rocks is that important. But,
well, depends. Are you talking about trading for future, or are you trading about getting better picks for a future?
I'm talking about trading to address any salary cap queries right now, to bring players in or get points or whatever the case might be. The biggest problem that this club's had since they brought in trading future picks is they've traded future picks, and every year they've traded the future pick to address the issues of the past, and it's like they're always trying to catch up for fucking up.
Playing catch up. Yep.
Yeah, fucking up on Scharenberg and Freeman and spending 2 sevens on Treloar and all that sort of stuff. And it's always like, we'll trade into the future, and address that later. And again, Beams is another one also. I'd actually like for a new coach to be able to come in and go, okay, we're fucking square. Next year, you have your first round pick, which is wherever you finish, and you got Nick Dacos. We have traded out Grundy, but we have Max Lynch as a ruck prospect. Darcy Cameron's good, and Aiden Beggs, going to be coming in and all that sort of stuff. So even playing field for you. And salary cap's fine, so we can go try and poach someone free agency next year. So that's what I'd like. That's what I'd be looking at in terms of trading someone out. Rather than what you're probably looking at right now, potentially is, look, if you had no injuries and all that sort of stuff, I think we could contend for the 8. I don't think we're really going to make that much of a dent in it. It'll be very much like last year, where you might have one meritorious win against whoever and then just collapse in the heap, or in typical Collingwood fashion, win every final until the grand final, like in 1980. But it's not really a side or list at the moment with their current state of development. All that sort of shit's going to win a flag, maybe in 4 years, whatever. So you're pumping games in the Grundy or whoever else the case is, and it's like, well, you're running this guy into the ground. He's not really going to get a chance to play in the flag. Maybe you send him off to a Geelong or someone like that who would close, who would think, yeah, okay, we'll shoulder a lot of this, but you still have to pay whatever, 200 grand or whatever the case is, for a little bit. And we'll give you this. And then Colin would just go, okay, we can rebuild in earnest now without having to fucking look at the compromises we have to make because of our shit list management for the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting watch this space, how that unfolds. I mean, they'll certainly have to start declaring some form of hand at the trade table this year. You'll get some really good intent, I guess, out of what they do.
Yeah.
Or don't do.
Well, we'll find out in due time. What's your tip for the Collingwood Port Adelaide game?
Port by 80 points.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
I think we might actually legitimately get a touch-up. Port's...
well, they had a good win against St Kilda this week, so...
they are patchy. And I don't know. It's you sort of get the sense that we'll wait and see. I won't make any statements, but yeah, we might get a little bit of a touch-up over there, depending on who's allowed to go over.
Oh, that's another good point.
Because wasn't there a heap of GWS and Swans players that are in mandatory 14-day isolation or something? I don't know whether it's any good ones or bad ones, or did they have to make drastic changes before the game started today?
I read something? No, I don't watch.
I have no idea. I'll read something tomorrow. But you would think, depending, I guess, on who was at that Wallabies game, we may have a slightly depleted side going over. Who knows?
Well, that'll be something new for Collingwood, won't it?
Well, anyway. What do you think? What's your tip? You can give it.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. I'll tell you the one thing that disappoints me is you go back 3 weeks. Oh, yeah, that goes without saying. You go back 3 weeks to go to the St Kilda game, and we lost. Oh, we got hammered for 3 quarters, and we made that improbable comeback in the last quarter. And it was really a pretty shitful effort. And you go into the game against Richmond where the side looked a lot more switched on. And it was like, okay, well, this is your potential if you run hard, if you hit tackles and all that sort of stuff. But this game against Carlton, outside about the first quarter, it just felt like that St Kilda game again. It felt like the players' intensity had dropped. And there's always a danger that's going to happen because they've got a caretaker coach. There's 5-6 weeks until the season ends, and they're probably just looking at like, well, can we get this shit year behind us? So I'm curious.
Which, in some respects is fair enough because everybody's fucking feeling that. Yeah. I don't think they're fucking like isolated from what's going on in the world and the shitstorm that we're living in. I don't think that they're immune to it.
No, but also from the point of view of, as a football team, once finals become an impossibility, you just start marking time. So they're getting hit from different angles. I don't know how Harvey treats them behind closed doors, whether he has the capacity to rip into them. He doesn't seem the sort of guy who'd fucking give fearful sprays like a Malthouse or, even the Buckley or whoever the case is. He just seems too nice a guy. I don't know what sort of Collingwood's going to come out next week, because it's all about like the psychology of that collective. And to me, it seems to be deteriorating pretty quickly, because we're in this sort of whirlpool at the moment. I know it'll be attributed to the board, but the reality is, just with all the shit going on, I think we are just looking at like, well, can we get this fucking year out from behind us? Can we just? I'm looking at the finish line. And I know there's other average teams like North Melbourne who are showing better form and all that, but they're sort of at the start of the journey of rebuilding, where we're the sort of side, who ran around like going, oh, we're going to be finalists this year, and it all bottomed out. And it was like, oh, fuck, now we have to adjust to this new reality. Whereas someone like North Melbourne, they knew they were shit from the beginning of the year. And it was like, okay, we're rebuilding. So this is a journey where we're meant to be trending up. So,
and none of them have had a tumultuous season like we've had.
No.
Off the field.
Oh, no. Well, you get the board instability, you get the player departures, you get the outgoing president, you get the outgoing coach. There's just so much shit happened at this club. It's probably been the most tumultuous year I've ever experienced at Collingwood.
Yep.
Just on every level. There's so
perfect
much
platform to reset from, though.
But that's something they need to embrace. It's like, well, what? Here we go. Let's acknowledge that we're not that close.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
Can't believe you quoted that. But it's. I don't know what Collingwood's going to come out from week to week, but I mean, as you said before, you actually felt some feeling. That's a good phrase. You actually felt something at the game today as it was slipping away. Like I was actually getting angry, and I was like, okay, fucking good to rediscover that passion after.
Yep.
And a big part of that's because the Band-Aid's been ripped off. That 2018 Band-Aid's been ripped off, and it's like, well, you know what? We are where we are, and fucking hell, it now hurts because we're facing reality rather than that bloody deluded belief we had for a couple of years. Oh, like, we're premiership contenders and all this sort of shit. Where we've been saying, hey, this is all coming apart on us. So,
when did we start saying that?
I think it's 2019.
2019. How you prove that? Go back and fucking watch the previous episodes.
Mark Corder and Jeff Brown.
That's it.
Yes.
And leave your comments below. Oh, hang on. That might be challenging.
Hang on. I have a comment from Jeff Brown here. Let me just read it. Again, I can't dispute that. Sorry. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for that input.
I can't either. I'm curious to see whether we'll pull the same gag next week.
No,
why the fuck not?
Yeah. Well,
you just don't know when it's going to be.
Well,
we may open with that gag.
That'll be a fucking good one. Anyway, that's it from us. Leave comments.
And that's it from us.
Shit lost, but shit happens, especially at this club. And we'll speak to you hopefully in person, or at least in front of the camera next week. But who fucking knows? Who knows?
I'd seriously doubt it.
Who knows anymore? I don't know what's going on.
Can you animate the paper mache head that people see?
Oh, I can do that. The Eddie head.
If you do that, I'll talk through it.
That sounds good.
Let's be innovative.
Yeah. Okay. I might do that next. All right. Cool. Anyway, that's it. Later.
Okay. See ya.